Okay, some of you will have or are going to buy the pattern that I've got for sale online for these cute little faux Mary Janes. Basically, they come in three sizes. There is 8 centimetre, and it's measured across the base of the shoe. It's 8 centimetre, 9 centimetre, and 10 centimetre. So they're basically for newborns, 3 to 6 months and 6 to 12 months sizing. Cute. Basically what I've decided to do is to do a video for you to show you how to do this base so that you get the nice raised edge, and you'll also find that inside they're pretty much seamless, so there's no issue or raised bits that are going to rub on your baby's foot. They are knitted in the round, up to where you cast off for the strap. And I'll just put the pin back in there so it sits nicely. So you're going to need either a very long circular needle or 2 circular needles. Now I don't use the magic loop method. I use a pair of needles. So these are my Zing needles. I like the Zing because they are coloured. Each size is a different colour, so it's quite easy when you've got a pile of them to pick out the ones that you want. They've also got the size etched. Don't know if you can see that. It's right here. They've got the size etched into the side of the needle. They are nice, sturdy knitting needles. The points are nice and smooth, easy to use. The cords are quite strong and they're affixed very well to the ends. I have had trouble in the past with some types of circular needle with the cord actually pulling out of the end. Highly recommend these. So I'm going to show you how to do the sole of these little shoes. Also, it works well. It's basically the same method for the sole for the little Uggy type boots that I've got patterns for up there as well. This is the flat piece that you knit for the bottom. That's basically this bit here. I won't show you how to do that in a video because most of you, if you're going to attempt these shoes, you should be, a reasonably experienced knitter and be able to work that out for yourself. Basically what you do to start off with is take one of your circular needles and you're just using one point. And what I want you to do is and we're using the white, so I'll get that ready. I want you to insert your needle into the loops on the base, starting in the middle. You don't start at the end, you start in the middle, and you split it, pull it through. Love this wool. It feels really, really nice. It's now discontinued, but it's a bugger for splitting. So you want to pick up 3 stitches from the center of, and this is the back of the foot, so 3 stitches along there, and then you get to this bit, and I don't know if you can see this, but the way this is knitted, every row the last stitch is purled and then you turn it and the first one is slipped. So what you get is this nice little side-on stitch all the way along, and what I want you to do is I want you to pick up, you see there's 2 edges on this stitch. I want you to pick up the one closest to you and knit that out. I'll just split the wool again. So you've got the other side of a stitch is untouched. Now the reason I want you to do that is because we're going to use the other side of that stitch at a later point. So we'll just work our way along the edge, picking up every stitch. Now I am doing the the middle size, so it's the 9 centimetre shoe in this instance. On occasion my hands will go out of shot because it's actually quite difficult to watch both the camera and what I'm doing, and you really do need to be watching what you're doing when you're doing this. So we're almost at the end of the first side. And that's the last one. Okay, now we've got to the cast off edge, and if you remember, there were 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 stitches on the cast off. And what I want you to do is to, again, with just taking one loop, I want you to pick up 4 of them with this needle. Okay, so that's the first half done. So pull your needle through like that and just let it hang. I usually put it in around about the middle so the points hang out of the way. Grab your other needle. And this bit's a little bit tricky because you're fighting the other needle to stay out of the way, and you pick up the remaining 3 along the bottom. It's actually the front of the shoe, like that, and then you go along the side, this side, the same way that you did the other side. Again, you're just picking up one side of the stitch and leaving the other side untouched. This is a little bit fiddly, but I think the effect is worth it, so persevere. That's my gate rattling you hear in the background. There's a nice breeze today, so I've got the door open. With these shoes, I generally do to add into 2 colours, with the sole being a different colour to the top. What you do is entirely up to you. You can do it all in one colour. You could do 2 colours like I have, or you could even do more if you want to. Just do a couple of stripes down the bottom, or have your strap a different colour. Okay. I've also got another pattern that adds a rose to the shoe, and it also has pattern for a rose headband. Okay, so we're back to the base again, and basically what you need to do at the base is pick up another 3 stitches. This can get a little bit tricky because it's getting a bit tight, so what you can do is you can use the other end of the same needle and pick up a stitch with that, and then knit it. That's 2. Three. Okay, so now what I do is I turn it over and tie the two tails together, just so that I don't lose that stitch while I'm working. Okay, so there you have the picked up stitches on either side. That's the underside. That's what you will see here, and this is the inside. And you see the other side of the stitches forms a bit of a ridge, which is good because you're going to need to be able to see that when you get to the stage of changing colour. Right, so now what we do is you move the next needle into the working position, like that. Move your stitches up closer to the point, ready to be worked. Grab the tail of that same needle and bring it around and use that to knit. And I'll just get to the other end. Okay, and there you've done your first side. Now while I'm here, I'm just going to count the number of stitches on the needle just to make sure that I did pick up the correct amount. 4, 6, 8, 10, 12, 14, 18, 20, 2, 4, 6, 8, 9. So that's 29 on one side, and there should be 28 on the other. So you pull the needle through to the middle into the resting position and move the next needle into the working position, like so. Again, you grab the tail of the same needle that you're working on. Be a bit careful here, because if you don't get the tail right, you can end up adding an extra stitch by wrapping it around the cord of the resting needle. And then you just knit. So that's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, 23, 24, 25, 26, 27, 28. Wow, we got the right number of stitches. Cool. So that's your first row. Depending on what size you're doing, you'll either do, I think it's 6, 7, or 9 rows. So I'm going to keep going, but I'm going to take a break on the filming and come back to you when I've finished, and it's all knit all the way around, so it's basically stocking stitch. When you're using circular needles, stocking stitch is knit every round, and garter stitch is knit one round, purl one round, which is the opposite to straight needles, basically because you're going around in a circle. With straight needles, you're going one way and then you're turning it and going back the other way. So I will be back with you shortly. Okay, next step. I've done my 7 rows, as you can see there. So this is what it should look like. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to change colour and form the ridgy bit. So you need your second colour, your second ball of wool. You don't, as I said before, you don't have to change colour if you don't want to. You could just keep working with the yarn you're using. So you move the next lot of stitches onto the working position in the needle and push the base of your little boot through to the other side. Grab your new wool and get the tail of the needle that you're working with. Basically what you want to do is all those little ridges that you left by only picking up one side of the stitch, you want to pick those up and knit them together with the stitches you've got on the needle. Because you're starting at the middle of the cast on edge, you need to pick up 3 stitches from down the base before you turn to the side. Now, because it's a cast on edge, there is only one set of loops, so it's just a little bit tricky to do. So just pick up 3 loops, well, one at a time. You pick up a loop, put it on the needle, and knit that loop and the first stitch together. Then you pick up another loop and knit that loop and the second stitch together. And pick up a third loop. This can be a little bit tricky and tight. Now split that piece of wool and knit them together. So you got 3 stitches on there now, and you're onto the side. And if you have a look here, you can see the ridges from the side stitches. They are actually easier to pick up than the ones at the back of the shoe. So you just, one at a time, pick up the side bar on each of those stitches and knit it together with the next stitch on the needle. It might be a little bit fiddly the first time you do it, but you do actually get used to it. You've got, so you, for the first side, because it's 29 stitches, you've got to pick up a loop and knit it together with a stitch on the needle 29 times. When you get to the cast off edge, the cast off edge has 2 loops just like the stitches along the sides, so it should be relatively easy to pick up the stitches off the cast off edge. Again, you've got to be careful not to split the wool. Okay, I've done something a bit screwy somewhere. And now we're up to the cast on edge, and it's going to be a bit fiddly because cast off edge is generally a bit tighter than the stitches along the side. Okay. There we go. It's the first size, and as you can see, it's formed the ridge, and you've changed colour. Now you move the next stitches on the next needle into the working position. Move the other needle to the middle of the cord and continue with your picking up loops and knitting together with the stitch on the needle. Now if you want to, you can thread the tail through under the knitting stitches together so that you don't have ends that have to be woven in later, but for the purposes of this demonstration I'm not doing that. Okay, so now we're back to the side edge. And again, you just work your way along. Okay, so I will do that and be back shortly. Okay, I've worked my way around. Now I'm back at the beginning again. Basically what I've got to do now is tie off the white. So just do a reef knot. And these tails you will have to weave in when you're finished. Now let's move on to, of course you can also tie off the tail of the coloured contrast colour, and you move the next side into the working position on the needle. And basically what you're going to do now is you're going to do this little ridge around the base of the sole, which is basically a purl row. So get all your tails out of the way. I just hold them down with this finger. Get your working wool and start working. I tend to pull that first stitch reasonably tight because I don't want a gap between the last stitch of the previous row and the first stitch of the row you're currently working. And you just purl your way around. Somebody's not having a very good day. I don't know if you can hear it in the background, but there's a siren going somewhere. We're in the middle of summer here at the moment, and although I haven't heard on the news of any new fires today, we've just witnessed a rather large fire at Cherry Gardens, which took 4 or 5 days to finally put out. Fair way away from here, but you could actually taste the smoke in the middle of the night, like the house filled up with smoke from the fire. Not pleasant, but if you're going to live in Australia, that's kind of par for the course in summer. Okay, so, and again, you've got to be careful what you do with the tail yarn, because if I had left it there where it was and started knitting, I would have created a new stitch. So make sure it's in the correct position to start the second half of the round. Okay. And there you have your first round. So you've got your sole, which looks nice and neat underneath. And you've got your ridge around the base of the sole. And this is what it looks like on the inside. Now, to weave in the ends, you grab a knitter's sewing needle and you just thread it through like that. And trim it off. Ta-da! And you do the same thing with all tails. You might like to leave this until a later stage. Having the tails at one end helps you remember which row you're working on, which part of the round you're working on, at least. This one. I tend to get it over and done with while the shoe is still quite open like this. Once you've done a few rows for the main part of the shoe, it gets a little bit more difficult to turn it inside out. Yeah, well, you actually have to turn it inside out to do it, rather than having it open like this. One to go. Okay. Because if you use wool rather than man-made fibres, acrylics, nylons, that sort of thing, when you wash your shoes, the tail ends that you've woven in will grip felt a little bit maybe, and you won't be able to find them after they've been washed. Okay, so now you're on to doing this bit, which is just straight knitting, plain stocking stitch, so it's knit every row, and I think from memory you do 6 rows. So I think probably we will leave it there, because the sole is the tricky bit. The rest of the shoe is pretty easy. It's just straight knitting in the round up to the cast off, and once you've done the cast off row, you can knit all of your stitches onto one needle, and knit you knit the rest of the shoe straight on a single needle. And that is just this bit here. So it's the strap. And of course, the matching shoe for this one would have the strap going the other way, which is covered in the pattern. So I'll just do one side of the stocking stitch so you can see it, and then we'll call it a day. Thank you for watching, and I hope you enjoy making your little shoes. Nearly there, nearly there. Okay, so there you have it. The sole for a pair of one shoe and a pair of Mary Janes.